Hello, my dear students. How do you do? I wish all be in a good status. Today we will discuss one of the most significant writer, which is called Alexander Pope, from 1688 till 1744. Alexander Pope, he was an 18th century English poet. He is the best known of his satirical love and translations of Homer. He is the third most frequently quoted writer in the Oxford Dictionary of Quotations after Shakespeare and Tyson. If I want to talk about his early life, he was born in May 21, 1688, in Lombard Street, London. Both his parents were Roman Catholic. Before he was 12, he had obtained a smattering of Latin and Greek from various masters, from a priest, from a schoolmaster, from Thomas Dean, who kept a school in Marylebone, and afterward at Hyde Park Corner, and finally another priest at home. At the age of 12, he suffered a numerous health problems. In May 79, Pope's Pastorals was published and was followed by an essay on criticism, published in May 1711. At that time, the poem was published. The heroic couplet style in which it was written was a moderately new genre of poetry. A final section of this essay on criticism discusses the moral qualities and virtue inherited in the ideal critic, who Pope claims is also ideal man. Pope made friends with John Gay, John the Non-Swift, Thomas Parnell, and John Arbuthnot, who together formed the Strikel Club. If I want to mention two most significant works, an essay, as I say, on criticism was first published anonymously. Anonymously means without name or without title on 15 May 1711. Pope began writing the poem early in his career and took about 3 years to finish it. Rap of the Lock, also another literary work, is Pope's most famous poem, published in 1712, revised versions published in 1714. An essay on man, also another work of Pope's, is philosophical poem written in heroic couplets and published between 1732 and 1744. Pope intended these poems to be a centerpiece of a proposed system of ethic that was to be put forth in poetic form. It was a piece of work that Pope intended to make into large work. However, he did not live to complete it because of the disease prevented him to complete this work. An essay on criticism, despite the title, the poem is not much an original analysis at its completions of Pope's reading different ancients. It is the only significant critical treatise in English written in verse. It is famous for its polished lines, many of which have become proverbial. To err in human, to forgive is divine. An essay on criticism, the key term in Pope's essay is nature. Nature. It is not nature as a romantics were to understand it, wild and mysterious, but something reflecting deep order, moderation's universal law. According to Pope, past precepts and past examples are to respect it not simply for their antiquity but because they enshrine nature's law. In this treatise, Pope offers a history of literary criticism, the great critics of classical past and methodize nature, suppressed license, and brought golden age. Okay. First of all, Pope discusses that bad criticism do more harm to people than bad poets. Poet, according to Pope, should be born with his innate capacity to create. On the other side, a critic should have a true taste, and both poet and critic should cultivate their talents through education. It means that education has play an important role in critics and poets. The only acceptable poetry is the poetry of common sense. An essay on criticism. Most importantly, Pope, like other neoclassical literary critics, believes that poets and literary critics should be acquainted with the classical works of art and imitate them. Poets and critics should be the consonant readers of the ancient because the ancient discovered the rule of nature. Pope intensely suggests to literary critics that they should follow the objectivity and flexibility of the best Greek and Roman literary critics, as Aristotle, Longinus, and Horace. Pope thinks that essence of the art is human nature, and the poet also should observe the human nature keenly. Human nature is very keenly observed by the ancient poets and critics, so the Pope expresses the necessity of imitating ancients. Criticism and poetry are like physics, they are natural ways that govern them. An essay on criticism, epigram. There is a significant quotation from this essay. Uh, Pope says in line 215, a little learning is a dangerous thing. The poem was said to be a response to an ongoing debate on the questions of whether poetry should be natural or written according to predetermined artificial rules inherited from the classical past. He discusses the laws to which a critic should adhere while critiquing poetry, and points out the critics serves important function in aiding poets and their works, as opposed to the practice of attacking them. The final sections of this essay on criticism, discusses the moral qualities and virtues inherited in the ideal critic, who Pope claims is also the ideal man as a tool to make the argument that poetry only conveys a separate reality, but that it has a long, vulnerable history and it does not lie. It is defensible in its own right as mean to move readers to virtuous action. So thank you for lending your ears. I will meet you with another lecture. Thank you. Goodbye.